when you I'm sorry, everybody. Hello. Sorry about some technical difficulties. Just when you're traveling, you deal with the internet the way it happens. So I had to move from the studio onto my telephone. I hope you all can see me well. Today we'll be talking to Gauri. Gauri's an amazing human being. She works with Abuse Refuge Org. Her name is Gauri Baviskar. Let me say that correctly, Baviskar, and she's one of our human resources supervisors. Amazing lady. I want to tell you, norm therapy is one of those things that comes along once in a lifetime. It's an entirely new therapy. Well, I guess you want to say 30 years old and the past 6 years of implementation. But it's an amazing therapy to help abuse victims and survivors from around the world. We have thousands of testimonials from the work we've done on 6 continents, helping abuse care victims. We deal with narcissism, PTSD, child abuse, sexual abuse. We deal with domestic violence circumstances. In situations, we deal with self abuse. And we treat a lot of about 20 more different abuses to include PTSD, as well as uh, norm therapy for police and norm therapy for educators. We treat another additional 18 to 20 abuses. Okay, I'm through with being flabbergasted from all the technical difficulties get online with you here today. But now I'd like to bring in Gauri. I heard her in a meeting the other day, and of course, I had to have her on the show. She's an amazing asset over at the organization, and I'm looking forward to her doing great things with our organization. So, without any further ado, Gauri Baviskar, I'd like to have her come in. Hi, Gauri. How are you today? I can't hear a word you're saying. There you go. Okay. Say that
I'm doing
again.
good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. The technical difficulties of things just bother me sometimes because you want things to work right, and they work absolutely correct until the moment of truth. But
Yes.
anyway, there you go. So tell us, what are you up to today, and what do you think about our organization? Tell us a little bit about yourself and all of that, right in one little fell swoop.
Perfect. Yes. So, hello everyone. My name is Gauri Baviskar, and I'm working with Arrow as HR Supervisor. I am an MBA in Human Resource Management, and I have a previous 5+ years of working experience into human resources and the principles and into support systems. I love,
Wonderful.
yeah, thank you. I love painting, cooking, reading, gardening, meditating. I'm a very social person. I have volunteered previously as well to exhibit my social responsibility, and that time it was in a river cleanup project that was back in India.
Mhm.
And today I'm going to discuss, or we are going to have a discussion on abuse, types of abuse, and signs, and the ways to deal with abuse.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that long, good list of things. Tell me about. You said you volunteered before back in India to clean up a river.
Mhm.
What did you get out of it, and your soul wise, and your
So,
purpose? What did you get out of it?
so that was like something brought up from our college, and they wanted us to volunteer. They needed
Hmm.
people, actually, students to volunteer. And I mean, the way they wanted us to go ahead and look at the river first, just go and see how people dirty things around. And
All the
then,
damage.
yes, how's the damage? And then if you are okay to volunteer, because most of the time nobody wants to pick the trash, and it's like totally dirty surroundings, but we dirtied it. So we saw that. I felt bad. So I'm like, let's go ahead. Let's do something for a cause. So we
And
went
how
for it.
well? What kind of a job did you guys do?
So we first got like all our supplies, went to the spot, did a cleanup.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, a river cleanup. The best thing was when we it was like harsh job of 3 to 4 hours. more than that, I would say the 3 hours and 4 hours was actual cleanup, setting up everything.
And this was in India. This was in India.
That was in India. And then
What part of India? What part of India?
it's in Pune.
In
There's a
Pune.
river,
Okay.
yeah, just in our city. There's a river
Hmm.
just in a city which is Kaveri, and we wanted to clean that up.
Well, I've been
And
all
the
over
thing was,
India, and I'll,
yeah,
yeah.
it's all over India. And then
Hmm.
the best thing was that when everything was spick and span, it looked beautiful. And when we went back after a week over there, it was just the same as we saw.
Went back to that's what I
Yeah,
wanted to know. I wanted to know after you did all of that work, what was the state of being of the river itself? A week, a month later. Yeah, people are people, and they oftentimes not we have an inability as people to maintain things. We like to make them beautiful, but maintain them beautiful or maintaining it such is very difficult to do. I don't know why. But it's the same with abuse, though. That's why I wanted to ask you that question. Abuse is so pervasive, it's so ubiquitous. It's everywhere and it's in everything. It's in every relationship, just about, or every kind of relationship. And maintaining the good work that you do while you're trying to mitigate abuse in someone's life is hard to do. Just like cleaning that river. A month later, unless you put to use the techniques and tactics we teach and that we share with our victims and survivors, you'll always go back to the same reverted state.
correct.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, so tell me, why Arrow? Why Abuse Refuge Org? Now, for those of you who don't know, Abuse Refuge Org, or Arrow, as we affectionately call it, ARO, is a nonprofit, a U.S. based nonprofit 501c3. It's a registered with the IRS public charity. And what we do is, as Norm Therapy Inc., my company, is we undergird Arrow. We actually provide the services, the techniques, the doctrine, everything there is about norm therapy, and assist the nonprofit to provide those services free of charge to the public for the allocation of the kinds of volumes that we receive at Norm Therapy. It decides how many people can get free services from Arrow. And we have volunteers at Arrow, and Gauri happens to be a volunteer there. So we've been interviewing our volunteers, and some pretty interesting people coming from all walks of life with successful careers on their own, but they come to work with us and they're doing amazing work. Gauri is one of those people that really shined a light in the organization, and people can't say enough about her, so we have her here on the show today. We're going to be inviting more and more and different types of people and eclectic groups of folks that start coming in on panels, and we'll be talking about a lot of things in the future. But right now, I want to go back to Gauri. I'm looking here. Um, you say you love painting and reading. So, what is that? Your meditative state when you're painting and reading? What do you do?
No. So painting was my pastime pleasure back in my schools and colleges. And cooking is something I learned eventually because I am a foodie. So reading, uh,
Really
yes, I love food a lot. And
good.
reading is something, again, my parents didn't wanted me to go out and play when we were young. So they used to load us with a lot of books in the house, or we always had library cards only. We did not had access to any other things, and that's how I developed interest towards reading. But nowadays I just do social media scrolling in my pastime.
Okay. A lot of people do that. So
That-
many people admit, okay, I read today. I read something today.
so yeah.
So, what are
And
your favorite
gardening,
types of, say again? Gardening? Go
gardening
ahead.
is something. When I came in here in US, I'm like, okay, let's plant some trees, let's see how this goes. And I think that's really a stress buster.
Really? People tell me that all the time. And when I go out to the garden, I look at it differently. I was in the military for a long time. So when I went out to the garden, I mean, I was out in some jungle or some woods for months at a time. So whenever I see outside the garden, I'll go as far as the edge of the lawn and then I'm good. I'm done. I don't I don't want to go out and all that. Sit there with dirt in my hands. I did years of that in the military. But not to shun what you do, but you find peace in your gardening.
Yes, that happens when you just plant one seed, like sow a seed, and then you are like, oh, it turns into a plant. Now I have to take care of it because
Wow.
that's how you generate the interest, or that's how it happened with me actually.
Well, it says here that you're a simple person. You put that in your bio. And okay, so that means how many do you have? Are you married? Do you have children or do you?
I'm married.
Okay.
I'm married, but I don't
Okay.
have a child. We're working
So
on it.
tell me about your husband. Tell me about your husband. The good guy, one of those good guys.
Yes, he's an amazing person. We met back in India. It's an arranged marriage the way it is in India,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we actually got to know each other more when I came. I was here in US, and he works as a customer service manager with Publix,
Okay.
and he
That's a
wants to
great
climb
food
the
chain.
ladder. That's a good future, yes, for him. He wants to
Good.
climb the ladder and set himself as a risk as that position in Publix. And Publix is an amazing company also.
Yes, it is. I do know about Publix. So tell me, you mentioned something, arranged marriage. I've had all kinds of guests over the years,
Hmm.
and we've talked about arranged marriages before. Prior to your being married, if you don't mind discussing, prior to getting married, and prior to even knowing your husband or your future
Yes.
husband at that time, what did you think about arranged marriages? What were your thoughts about arranged marriages?
I was not okay with arranged marriages, honestly, because that is not.
Okay, but well, that's a good start. So tell me, if you weren't comfortable with it, why? What was so mysterious and so different about an arranged marriage and what you had on your heart?
So the way we met, he has had his um, drawbacks or past. I have had my past, and
Hmm.
it was just, I would say, it was just destiny that connected us through our parents, and
Hmm.
we actually took good amount of time. We were like, let's get to know each other first, and if it
Hmm.
works out, then, because I was not okay, honestly, from moving from India to US. It's like a huge transformation and
Huge. Yes,
transition.
it is.
Yeah, so I was not
And
okay with
Pune is
that.
one of the best places in India to me. Pune is clean, it's nice,
Oh,
great people,
it's
and
clean,
yeah,
a cool place actually.
yes, it is. And so to leave there to hit where are you in the United States, by the way?
I
Where
am
are
in
you in the United
Florida,
States?
in Fort Lauderdale, in
Oh
Florida.
my God, it is hot there today, I'm sure. There you go.
It-
It's like being in Mumbai or Old Bombay
yes.
or New Delhi. I went to Ahmedabad. Oh my God, that place is scorching. I was like, oh my God, that's
Yeah.
a scorching hot place. I'm in Dubai right now.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
great.
just as hot here. Yeah, it's hot here right
Yes.
now. But I
Yes.
do, when you're traveling, you just go with whatever internet you get. And lately it's been pretty shoddy. So I apologize to everyone. But I want to go back to the arranged marriage topic. So you didn't think much of it. So basically, what you're saying is your parents, through their infinite wisdom as parents and their assistants, they're saying things like, "Why don't we set you up on a blind date, so to speak, and to meet someone that you may spend the rest of your life with?" That must have been really impactful to you.
So my parents are totally cool about. They're more. We had more of modern parenting, even if we were back in India. Me and my brother both had more modern parenting,
Hmm.
and they were like, my brother is he loved a girl, and then he had his love marriage. He married before me. I, being the eldest, I wanted him to, but
Wonderful.
yeah. So they were not like those orthodox or primitive thinking. My mother is a modern person, my father is a modern person. They're working parents, so they know, like, it has to be according to your kids, like,
Yes, it does.
yes, you cannot just force them. So that's
Right.
how things happened with us. Like they were like, if you're okay, go ahead, get married. Um, and that's how we met. We spoke, our thinkings match, and we are like, okay, let's go ahead. My only trouble was leaving my people from back from India, because your people are your support system, and it was
Absolutely.
moving into a totally new
New
place where
environment.
I've never been before. So
Well, what was the aha moment for you? That aha moment when you said this could possibly work. What happened in that moment when you said to yourself about this amazing man you said he was earlier, when you decided that, yeah, I think I can do this and this will work? Please share.
so so when you live with a completely new person, when you're starting off your life, talking on a phone or on video calls, getting to know that person before marriage is a totally different thing. That's what I feel. And
Mhm.
actually living with that person under the same roof, sharing your bathroom, your bed, your everything, your whole life and space with that person 24/7 is a totally different phase and thing. So
Mhm.
you're gonna have your own conflicts, disagreements, and that's what happened with us as well. And but then I'm like, okay, there's this is gonna happen. My parents were like, okay, you will have to adjust through that. But the adjustments made me grow in a different aspect in my life. So that was
Absolutely.
the aha moment for me.
So through the
Before, I
trials
think,
and tribulations.
yes, before there was this system, like if we look at our parents, they would like to try to fix little things that come up in a relationship. That's not how it is now. The the generation is changing.
Yes.
The millennials don't want to work it out. I'm not a millennial though, but then I'm just saying.
Everybody wants instant gratification.
Exactly.
If
And
it's
if it
not
doesn't,
instant, they're out.
yeah, they're out. If it doesn't work, let's move on. So that is something that, give it a shot. That's what I would say. Even if it's not working, just give it one more shot. If it's not working the second time, give it a second shot. Maybe for the third time, it won't work. You can, at least you gave yourself the benefit of the doubt that, I tried, it didn't work out. But
Well, that's a
people don't
very deep
understand.
philosophy. That's a very deep philosophy in norm therapy. I'm glad you said that. We teach our victims and survivors is exhaust every measure you can to stay
Exactly.
in your circumstance and make it better. And once you've exhausted everything, then you can leave without turning around and looking back. I think that that's something, I think that's a very good solution to most problems in relationships is just keep trying and try to make it work without forcing it, of course. Anything you force in life will not be good, but
Correct.
without forcing it. So, what do you find your strengths? Do you find your strength in a relationship being that you have to be this good woman all the time, or is it natural for you to be a good woman and a chiding wife? Do you find your strengths there? Are you already that person, or did you have to become that person?
I am already, I'm a totally different person. I would not lie over here. Uh, so I'm a totally different kind of a person. The way I have, my parents have nurtured me, or the way they have, um, I would say, put values or imbibed values into us is totally different. And
Mhm,
when you're actually staying with the your life partner,
mhm.
you come to know what kind of a person are you, because the values is something externally taught to you by your parents. And when you're staying with or living with someone 24/7, you come to know, oh, I didn't know I can be so mad at such a small thing. I can be, I don't know, I can be jealous because now it's your husband. You're not jealous outside.
There you go.
There.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't care. But now,
What
oh,
advice would you give women though? What advice would you give women? You seem to be a happy person. Are you happy?
yes, I am. I'm a
That is
very
wonderful.
happy person.
Now, there are people who get married, they fall in, they wait a minute, they meet, they fall in love, they spend every minute together, and they know everything about one another, and then they get married and they end up hating each other. And you're quite different. I mean, you meet someone, and the decision's pretty much made what the outcomes are going to be, and you seem to have adjusted to that much better than most people who've known each other most of their lives. What do you think attributes to that?
So, the best thing that I learned over the course of time is um, the way I said that um, I got to know like oh, I can be mad, I can get jealous, I can, because those features never showed up into me till the time I met him. I'm living with him and things
Hmm.
happening between us.
Got
So,
it.
eventually I'm like, okay, this is making me uncomfortable. And if something is making you uncomfortable, the best thing to do is talk about it. If you don't talk, if it's not communicated to the next party, I don't think it's going to work out, because he's not going
What?
to know things. And that's what happened. He said that, if you want something, I'm not God. I'm not going to know everything just like that. You have to tell it to me. I'm like, okay, so let's do it. So
And
we
he's
have
right.
heart to heart conversations, and that worked actually into our relationship. So, and I think it will work for everyone, because
I
you
think
just
so.
have,
Communication is the key of all things. It's the
yes.
key of all things. Do you, and because a lot of many Indian women I've met around the world, pretty strong people, pretty strong. Sometimes demure and submissive, but oftentimes very strong. And they pretty much are like the head of the household, not the male part of the head of the household, but they kind of like run the house, so to speak, in a traditional way. Do you see yourself that way?
The place I am, or my family is more male dominated family.
Yes, exactly. I kind of figured that.
Yes.
I'm
uh,
fascinated with arranged marriage, and you have no idea. I'm fascinated with it because oftentimes people get much better results out of the arranged marriage than they do of marriages where people met, fell in love, and know everything about one another, and then they get a divorce, 6 years later. So yeah, I'm always fascinated. How do they make these relationships work? How are they sustainable? And but you seem to be a walking, living example of a good marriage and life partner, and be it arranged or not. I think you're setting a good standard for a lot of women. What advice would you give women out there about
and
marriage?
I think all women all over the world, just not Indian women. I i have my friends over here who are Americans. I think all women have this strength inside them. They are there, like they will stand by the man forever if they are given that kind of respect, if they're shown that kind of honesty, like they deserve.
Trust. Hmm.
Trust, absolutely the most important pillar of a relationship. And
Yes.
that is something that actually explains the whole relationship, and the person, or both the partners as a whole. That's what I feel. I think everybody's
May,
strong, all women. I respect everyone, because
that's the
um,
word I was looking for. Respect. That's one of
respect.
the other pillars. There you go. That's another pillar. I was about to
Yes.
interrupt, but you beat me to it. There you go. You beat me to it. Uh, when I heard you in the meeting the other day, you seem to really enjoy working with Abuse Refuge or
Yes.
Arrow, and you had a lot of great things to say about our organization. What's the best thing you like about working or volunteering at Arrow?
The best thing I would say is arrow culture. That is amazing,
Really?
because the way I was welcomed into Arrow family, I don't feel it like an organization. I'm working for an organization. When I log in, I'm like into Slack. I'm like, oh wow, that's like coming home. Because you are
Yes.
so stressful during the day with the jobs, with the people you meet, and trying to meet the expectations of the managers. And by the end of the day, when you log in, and then there are people who are like, hey, hi, hello, how are you? They treat you well. So
we have a wonderful work environment. Matter of fact, people who have worked in major corporations, privately owned businesses, and for governments all over the world who have volunteered, and we've had thousands of volunteers over the years, where they come in and with every level of professionalism, every level of acumen, every level of executive, have come into our organization, and they exactly say pretty much the same thing. This is the best place I've ever worked. Great people, great
Yes.
conversations. We communicate well. I think we have a wonderful environment, work environment, and culture for the organization. Kelly, she has a great personality
Yes.
as the global executive director, and she's easily loved. She's easily loved. Just an amazing human being, and it seems like the Arrow family loves her leadership, her style of being, her corporate culture that she's cultivating constantly. And I have a little bit to do with that, but it's mainly Kelly on that receptive kind of uh, to people and bringing them in and making them feel comfortable. We've had some great testimonies to our organization. It's been really I don't want to say a labor of love because it's been a lot of work. I don't love a lot of work, so but it's been a labor of love in a lot of ways. So go ahead. What were you going to
I
say?
would I would like to add one more good thing about Kelly is that she allows you to voice out your opinions. So she is always in a meeting saying, um, if you want to give us any feedback, if you want to give us any updates or suggest us any idea
Criticism or
that
anything.
that can help us change this particular system or this department into more working self or functional working. So that is something I like about her.
Yeah, she's very keen on taking that criticism and putting it into work. We believe that everyone at any organization should always be given the autonomy, that self motivation to get things done on their own, but also give them the authority to do that. Got to give the authority to have the autonomy. And then after they have both the authority and the autonomy, we believe in giving the responsibility to them as well. So if you operate anything in any business environment and you don't grant your people the authority, the autonomy, and the responsibility to do the best that they can in the organization, you're going to always get less results. We believe that wholeheartedly. So that's why everybody has a voice at the organization. How can
Correct.
we advocate for victims and survivors to have their voice and find their voice when we don't let our own employees and volunteers have theirs? Yeah, that would be such a hypocritical thing to do. So we don't do that. So, what are some of your hobbies? I like interviewing you. You're a very sharp young woman, and I'm very proud that you're on our show today. And
Oh,
there's
thank
a
you.
couple of panels I want to be talking to you in the future because we're going to start doing large panels, and I want you to come on with some folks, and we just have conversations and see where that lead us. But tell me more about what are some of the things that keep you motivated and some of your hobbies.
Okay. So hobbies is like, as I said previously, painting, cooking, reading, gardening. I sometimes I don't want to do anything. I'm like, it's not being lazy. It's
No,
just
I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
I just don't want to do anything. I just want to sit back, relax, and that's it. And I call that phase as meditating. So
It is. Oftentimes it is for most people to do any of those things would be a form of meditation, but you're like laughing through it like that's not really meditation. So, but tell me, what do you get out of it? Is it some kind of personal release that you get of stress? What do you get?
I don't get stressed that easily. I can because I have worked in such a stressful working conditions previously, so I know how to cope up with stress. Eventually, I've learned how to do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, what I get is like internal peace when I'm just sitting, and most of the time, when you are with yourself, I feel you are looking at yourself like in a mirror when there is nothing going on. You're just sitting there, zero thoughts in your mind, and that's when the first thought emerges. Is like it's looking at yourself in a mirror, and then it's like, oh,
Hmm.
I think this is your weakness. You should start working on this. okay, this is your strength, so let's just keep it at the side. But then I will just talk about the weaknesses. So that's how you can actually self introspect as to
Mhm.
what you should, how you should lead your life in, and how you should grow in your life. That's what
Introspection
it
is
gets
everything.
out of me when I'm doing that.
Introspection is absolutely everything. It really is. You have to be able to look at yourself objectively. Oftentimes, it's very hard for us to look at ourselves objectively because we're biased. We're going to always like ourselves more than we like than others like us. At least we should. Or we're always going to have a different and a more slanted view of ourselves because we're biased. We want to make sure we're okay. But do you accept criticism well? Do you accept criticism well?
I initially didn't, but yes, when
Aha.
I am, I would
There you go.
lie a bit in this session because this is like I'm talking to someone, such a great person, and you're
Thank
doing
you.
so much for the society. So I will not lie. But then that is something I would say nobody's very good at handling emotions. That is something you develop once
Hmm.
you are like maturing, once you are like trying to self introspect, that
Hmm.
this feature or this quality or this drawback is there inside me, and now I have to work on it because I
Yes.
would give this with an example because that happened with me. This is like a live example I would give. um, when we were kids, we were always being told by our parents, why don't you just sit and study instead of just playing around with your friends? Why don't you sit and study? Why don't you sit and study? So they will tell you 10 times, but then there's this one thought when actually the exam dates are up, you have the calendar. What if I would have just sat and studied and listened to my mother?
In retrospect, it's
Yes.
absolutely.
Next time I'm going to do that. So that one thought, that is what I believe in. So that's why I give fair chances to people. Like if they're not listening to me at one go, that's fine. I mean, we are all making mistakes. We all want to grow in life. We have our own baggages, and everybody needs their own sweet time to move through that emotion. So I give people a lot of chances. That is
Do
not a
you
good
know?
thing, but
No,
that
go
is,
ahead.
according to me, that's a good thing because
Yes.
they need that. That's what I feel.
Well, listening to your parents' wisdom reminds me of a story. Do you know the story of the cow and the buffalo?
No,
Did you
but I
know
would
that
love to
cows
hear.
the cows and buffaloes? I know in India they're like sacred, the cow in a lot of places. But the cow and the buffalo, when they can sense a storm or problems or storms in the atmosphere. It's a kind of
Mhm.
metaphorical the conversation. However, whenever a cow hears or knows or senses a storm, it runs away from the storm. The storm is approaching, the dark clouds are behind them, and they're running away. But whenever a buffalo senses a storm, it runs towards the storm, and it runs towards it as hard and as fast as it possibly can. And the moral of this story is if you run away from something, like you should probably sit there and study 10 times, being told, and then on 11th try when you were in class, you wish you would have, could have done that. When you run away from something, that storm is going to be with you a lot more, a longer time, because it'll still catch you eventually and it'll have to pass over you. But when you run towards it, the confrontation of it, it actually, as the metaphor goes, it actually, you shorten your time with that turmoil and that problem, and you find solution rather quickly, and you'll see daylight and sunshine and wind and clear winds rather soon than later. Do you understand the meaning of that? And not that you in a question, but just as a statement. I think that most people run away from everything in life, and
That's right.
uh, and I think that causes for the word of uh, people having things in common, mostly people have in common, is they get comfortable with where they are in life and they try to build this wall around their area of comfort and imprison themselves in their status quo. Whereas, like your parent gave you that advice to, why don't you just study during this time period? And perhaps, you could have done better on your test. Perhaps you'll never use that information in your life, but you always do. I know when people say in school, I'll never use this information. And the next thing you know, they're trying to park the car and they're parking it and they don't know they're using geometry the whole time, and
Correct.
and so, but people do that. So I wanted to put that in there because I like the way you speak. I like the way you refer, and oftentimes you refer to your family and your husband. I think it's very respectful, but it's kind to you. You're being kind to yourself because you're in consideration of them. That's a very good quality to have. It really is.
Thank you.
So I can see now why you're at Arrow. We have that kind of organization where people really give their heart. They really do. They really give all they have. They say, and it's been clinically proven, as a matter of fact, that people get more out of giving than they do out of receiving. Somebody does something for you, you go, yes, thank you very much. I so appreciate it. But when you do something for someone else and you see them made happy or whole because of something you've done, you get much more out of it than anyone could have ever done anything for you. So, I want to start on that premise. In India, it's a very, wow, so many people in India. It's whenever I'm there, I feel overwhelmed with the population. There's so many people in the population. Being attentive to so many different people and cultures, so many types of cultures in one place, oftentimes. Uh, how did you deal with that growing up? Was it something uh, just as a normal practice for your family, or was something you guys had to constantly adjust and get used to in India, of the different cultures and the belief systems and the traditions? How did that affect you growing up?
So, my father has worked in an organization where uh, they had people all over
Hmm.
India, from different parts of India. So the way they used to have like these office parties, we were also invited, and we
Hmm.
met so many good people actually, and great people with so much diversified knowledge. That is something that I actually believe in. I mean, the political system in India is something I don't want to talk about. But then, just to give a gist of it, is dividing people into a set of races. That
Hmm.
is something I don't like. But
Nor do I, of course.
being grown up, yeah, because what I can learn from my race is something very constricted to that, or thinking the laws, the practices, something very restricted to that race. And if I don't go ahead and interact with other people from different races, how will I grow as a person? The more you are exposed to other people or other different religions, different cultures, the more you learn from that person, because I believe that everybody has something that you can learn from.
That's a
even
fantastic perspective.
even like you can learn, honestly, back in India my mother taught me that if you can learn something from a president, you can also learn something from a beggar. I'm not saying that
Yes.
in a bad
No,
way, but
no, but I know what you mean. But there are
Mhm.
beggars in the world. I mean, there's a
Yeah, you
class
can
of
learn
people who beg. Nothing wrong with
something
that.
from them. They will give you best pieces of knowledge than what a president can give you, because they are dealing with that on
And
daily
living it.
basis.
And
Yeah,
living it.
the struggles and
Experiential
everything.
knowledge.
It's more that something that you can learn from. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So I
Experiential
think
knowledge is everything. That experience that they have, you can live vicariously through people, oftentimes by listening to their stories. There's an old saying that even the dull and the ignorant have their stories too. So you should always listen to just about anybody when they have something to say. You never know how it will apply to your life. It seems like you, at a very young age, are using wisdom to help guide you in not only your marriage, but your work ethic, your education, as well as how you operate as a human being. I think that's very commendable to what you to be on this show. See, forgive me for moving my head a lot, but the way I got this camera set up, I didn't fix it the correct way. Because every time I move this way, my head moves that way. When I move my head this way, it moves that. So I'm like sitting there going, "What the heck is going on with this whole interview?" And it's kind of distracting. So please forgive me. I don't
Oh,
normally
that's
do it on my phone. But okay, here let's go into something else. Kids. So, are you guys plan on having children?
not anytime soon. We're just trying to
Well, that's
concentrate on
okay.
our careers. That's it.
I think that's a very novel approach. It's a great approach to family and children. I think if you rush into anything, especially children, it could end up being, your downfall. You want to spend enough time together, with your husband. You want to travel. You want to get your careers on the right path. You want to set up the environment for kids if you're going to have them in the
That's
future.
right. Yes.
Okay, and yeah, I think preventative maintenance is, like I mentioned earlier, is everything. So the methodologies that you use uh, in dealing with people and the different abuses that mentioned here, what are some of the abuses that most interest you to help people in, if you don't mind my asking you that?
Yes. So when I would like to give a little more brief information about
Hmm.
how why I chose this topic is when I joined Arrow, I have this habit of going through the company website, getting all the knowledge, how the company functions. So that interests me is like I would have never said yes to abuse. I would say, I don't know how to put this into words, but I would have never said yes if it was like my friend said, "Okay, go ahead and interview for this company." She did not give me so much insight, but when I went ahead and looked at the website, I'm like, "Oh, this is something that is happening in the world, and this is not right." So I did a lot of investigation research. So I'm like, let's talk about abuses. Like, what is abuse? Um, so there are I didn't know there are 21 types of abuses. Honestly,
There are many
uh,
more, believe it or not. We just championed 21 plus the three additional
yes,
areas.
yes.
Yes.
And how can people misuse something that they have? It's like a little shocking. It's shocking for us because maybe we don't do that. That's why it's shocking for us, but then things are happening outside in the world, and that is really saddening. But what I felt was a child abuse. Why would you abuse a child? Because children are so innocent. They whatever whatever you try to impart on them, like a very basic thing also,
Hmm.
and if it's set in a right tone, in a right way, they will understand that more better, and it's going to be for the lifetime. So it's
Yes.
going to impact them for the lifetime.
But
And
there are certain personalities, just to go to that theme, and I want to share that before you continue. There's certain personalities,
mhm,
sociopaths, narcissists, there are psychopaths. There are many people out there who have very little regard, believe it or not, for children. And not only in corporal punishment, like beating them, but also sexually abusing them, stressing them throughout the entirety of their life, denigrating or emasculating them, male or female. Uh, some levels, high levels of misogyny that occurs in how parents, male or female, deal with the kids. And sometimes both the parents are narcissists, or one's a sociopath and the other one's a narcissist, and that child never really gets a break. And they grow up in such tremendous abuse that by the time they're adults, they're damaged, not unfixable, mind you, just damaged to the point where they don't understand that they're, you mentioned earlier, you said, because I'm on this show and because it's you, that I won't lie. Sometimes you have to lie. People don't understand that lying is actually absolutely normal. Because people lie for fear of embarrassment, for fear of threat, for fear of failure, for fear of many things, of being seen as small. But abuse victims lie pathologically all the time. especially children, because you know the girl with the black eye, the bloody nose, the cracked tooth, the broken rib, and she's holding her chest and she looks at you and she says, "He beats me because he loves me." Who is she lying to?
Yeah.
Herself, me, and the world. Those facades that they create. And that's why I think children, because remember, the way we attack abuses at abuse refuge as well as in norm therapy, the way we deal with these abuses and treat them is very important to us. We um, we don't just identify the abuse. We try to treat the abuse from the understanding that there's an underlying theme with all abuse, and that's fear. Every single abuse on the planet has the underlying theme of fear somewhere in there. And we try to find that fear, root it out, and teach our victims and survivors how to develop courage as it relates to those fears. Because everybody will lie through that conditioning of abuse. They just will. And they have to lie because that's how they survive. They have to convince not only, it's impossible for me to lie to you. Hey, Gauri, you have yellow hair. You don't have yellow hair. But I
Hmm.
can say that to you over and over. And let's say I'm beating on you and I'm talking down to you every day for years, for months. I'm talking down, I'm beating you, I'm making you think you have yellow hair. And you'll walk into the mirror one day and say, wow, I do have a little yellow coming in here. Because you'll start to believe what your prefrontal cortex and your frontal lobes and your amygdala, your threat center is telling you you know, that's not true. But you'll start to believe it through conditioning. Anyway, we can have this conversation forever. But I'm sure you've seen abuse around the world, and
Yes.
it seemed like children are your soft spot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for child abuse, and I would also say self abuse, because at least the
Yes,
children can say anything. They can be bullied so easily.
yes,
That is why I have a soft corner for them. But anything apart, like a teenager, anything above 16 or above 21, the people actually know they're adults and they actually know that they have to say something. They have to they can voice out their opinions, they can voice out their abuse, but then a child, sadly, is so submissive and
yes.
he cannot say anything. He just have to
And
go through that.
naive
Yes.
and quite
He,
gullible and trusting and many
yes.
other things. So they're a walking victim to those who would be predators to these children. It's something we see all the time. So I think we have some questions from the audience over here. Let me see what I got here.
Okay.
Um, okay, let me look over here. So in 5 years, where do you see yourself?
5 years. So, um, now this is like a little tricky for me, but if I have to answer this, when it comes to my career, I want to I lack certifications in this country, so I'm going to go ahead and get those certifications. So I would see myself like at a managerial level when it
Okay.
comes to my career. But
Okay.
um, personally, like when I just spoke about this to my husband, like on like a very social and
Yay.
personal level. I spoke about this to my husband. I told him, you know what? Nothing interests me in this life. Like I'm not interested with anything right now. So he's like, "What? Are
Hmm.
you going to just leave your job and just sit?" I'm like, "No, not that way." I'm like, "I want to do something different. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something different." So most probably, I would go towards like as my interest is in meditation and healing, so I would like to take that also as a second subject apart from human resources. So that is
Well,
at two levels and that I'm looking at a career level, because obviously you I will need a career to bloom myself into as I'm trying to have a family also. But then apart from them, if I have to do something for the society or for people, I would
hmm
go into meditation and healing. I'm sure that there are some certifications also for you to practice that And
You should try to consider becoming a norm therapist, I believe.
I was about to say that I'm actually also going to consider norm therapy because that is a part, I would say, part and parcel of meditation and healing. You're helping people get out of unpleasant situations, and I think that that is
And
something
strengthening
that
them. We
I have.
strengthen people.
So yeah.
Well, you said something. You said I don't know exactly about what I'm not interested in anything. That's the wisest, I think, position to take. I think there's more wisdom in what you don't know in life than what you do know. There's a lot more wisdom in what you don't know. But when you do know something, what happens? As soon as you know something, you put on those blinders and you go straight for it, you focus and you get it and you go after it and you achieve it. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you miss all of this in the process. You miss this. You just go straight for that. And I think that when you don't know something, all of this becomes a possibility.
Right.
And it's okay not to know. And that's why I think most people uh, experience a lot of self abuse because they're afraid of what they don't know that's coming next. And they
Correct.
don't know how to deal with it. And I think you take a very good approach, a very useful approach to not knowing. And it's okay that you're comfortable with that. And I think more people should be comfortable with the fact that they don't know what they're going to do next. And that's even better because it widens your perspective and it widens your berth. You've got more to deal with and more to consider. I think it's a shame that a lot of people tell their kids when they're young, grow up and go to school and get a degree and get that and then get a job and then work for 40, 45 years and then quit and die, you know, because now they've been put on this narrow path their whole life and they've missed all of this in
Yes.
life. They're not living, they're existing for that path that leads them to death. And they may have a successful career. They may have raised so many kids and grandkids and all of that, but they missed life while they did it. And I
That's
think that could be very bad. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. If we got a few more minutes, love talking to you,
Oh
Gauri, an
yeah.
amazing lady. Okay, so after having moved to the U.S., do you think you'll ever move back to India?
My husband doesn't want to because he's been not born, but he's been raised here, so he
Hmm.
loves USA. I also love USA. Honestly speaking, it just takes some time for you to adjust into a different country. I would say even for me to adjust into a different state, if I have to move from Pune to Mumbai, if I was back in
Hmm.
India, it was difficult for me, honestly speaking. So yeah, it takes some
I can
time.
believe that.
You take your own time to adjust to people and surroundings, and I think I have adjusted well. So I would like to stay here, but if he wants to go back, I don't mind. I am so much not with the like the places. I can adjust anywhere. If you throw me on the moon right now, I will adjust.
So long
I,
as you got your husband and your people around you, you're happy, right?
I I will just not just live. I will flourish in that place for sure, and I will make
That's
others
wonderful.
the same way. Like I will make their lives happy too, along with me.
That's a wonderful disposition. It really is. It's a wonderful disposition. Okay, so what was the most important lesson you learned from your experience of being in an arranged marriage? And what advice would you give to those women out there who find themselves in similar situations?
So like talking about marriage in general, just not arrange or love, but just marriage in general. I would say when you're dating a person or talking to a person, it's totally a different person. You should
Mhm.
always take a lot of time in getting to know, ask the right questions initially to the guy. Um, I would also say ask right questions and get right answers. See what the future has for you from him, and what are you willing to give as well. Because it's just not about that other person giving you stuff in a relationship, like your like financial security, physical security, or everything else related to that
Mhm.
marriage that comes with the marriage. But it's it's not always taking, it's also giving what you can give,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
that is adjusting. And when it's a two-way street, I think the any kind of marriage, may that be love marriage, may that be arranged marriage, it's gonna work for sure. It marriage is a process. We both are gonna um, learn, make mistakes,
Hmm.
learn, make mistakes, learn, even repeat those mistakes till the time we are like, okay, now I think I should not do this, because
Yeah,
that's
sometimes you have to beat your head against the wall and say, okay,
yeah.
enough is enough. Yes.
Yes. So I think girls, women should be just a little strong, independent, because that's the need of society these days, and a little strong, I would say.
Yeah, I hear this all the time, and we can talk about this for a few seconds. We have a couple of minutes left, 5 minutes. So I want to talk. I hear the phrase all the time when women say, I don't need a man. What do you think when you hear that?
I think everybody needs a man, and I think everybody needs a woman also, because that's the pillar of a relationship. You cannot just have, I mean, you can have a relationship with your own self by just sitting there, uh, growing in your life in terms of career, finances, and everything. But if you want to settle down, have a family, I think
Your
everybody would.
objectives have to be in mind, whether you need a man or
Yes,
not.
what?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Here's
you know,
what I'm thinking. I'm sorry,
back
go ahead.
back in India, women are like very modern. Oh wait, at this time and age, if I talk, most of my friends are like so well educated. They're like doctors, a few are engineers, and they're 35, and we don't want to marry you because we are good by ourselves. We don't need a man. Like, okay, good for you. That's fine. Absolutely, I respect their thinking, the way they are in their life, because it's very difficult to adjust with someone later on after a certain age with someone. So that's what their opinion is. But
My
that's
experience dealing with patients, that's a form, I think, a form of self-abuse. I think they have valued their money, their education, and their position over relationships. No one
Mhm.
says that you must get married. You must have a family. You must be with a man or woman, because people have their preferences these days. None of that is what I guess I'm referring to. But there will come a time when you're 40, 41, 42, and you're
Mhm.
sitting there with this big house and this great car, oh, and you're at the pinnacle of your career, and you have no one with whom to share it.
Yeah, no.
There will. I mean, I see all the time women in their 40s. They're not married. They've never married. They're desperately looking for a man. All their young life, they're being chased by men. They're telling men to go away, and then and as they get older, they're chasing men, trying to find a good man. And when they probably walk past many, trying to really become a great part of their life during that earlier part of their life. So I think it's to the female culture's detriment to have that theme of I don't need a man. And women will be adamant about I don't need a man. I don't need a man. But that'll never be true. It makes no sense. It's antithetical to normalcy. It just is. But that's another conversation, a longer one we can have. If you had anything to say to our audience, what would you say to our audience that you want to leave us with today?
Oh, first of all, thank you for listening to our great session with Michael. I enjoyed the session, and I look forward to having more. I was nervous initially, but I
You
think
did
that
well.
that really, yeah, that was maybe you're the best host.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was
Maybe they'll
nervous.
give me an award one day. Who
I
knows?
was telling
But
Kelly that I am nervous, but then
don't worry
the
about it. You did
way
wonderful.
you comforted me, the way you allowed me to say things at the right pointers, at the right point, that was great. And the last thing I would like to say to audience is, like, with all the conversation we had during this session, is let life happen. Don't take it so seriously. Enjoy, sit back, relax, and let life happen to you, because that's the purpose of us being brought on this earth is just experience life. If you were
Absolutely.
sad, experience that sadness. If you're happy, experience, like, let that sadness so be involved into you, or you should be so much drowned with that sadness that you you take the lead, and you, when you drown yourself, you take the lead and you come up. If
Absolutely.
you give lead to others, it's never going to happen, because you'll be going to be
That's true.
dependent on them for everything. So the best thing is just, if you're sad, that's fine, let life happen to you. If you're happy, that's experience that happiness. Not everybody is that fortunate to experience happiness in their life, and you're getting the opportunity, so just do it, get it. You're
Well,
blessed.
Gauri, thank you for that advice. I'm going to read these last notes and get us out of here. I really
Perfect.
enjoyed having you on the show today. I really did. And
Thank you, Michael.
so I'm going to tell our audience now, if you've enjoyed and got something out of today's live podcast, share this live session with a friend who could benefit from this message. Please go to Arrow, go to goarrow.org or normtherapy.com and explore our opportunities and seek help for yourself or someone needing our services dealing with 21 different abuses in the four other areas to include PTSD, uh, drug and sexual abuse that we'll be working and developing in the future. Also, abuse mitigation for police as well as educators. We'll be talking more about that as well. And if you're interested in participating in our live sessions as a guest, like Gauri today, please send your information to contact@normtherapy.com. If you're a victim or survivor and you need in sessions, please send email to that as well. The same address, contact at normtherapy.com. And thank you for joining us. We can't wait to see you again this Sunday, June 30th, which is my mom's birthday,
Oh,
at
happy
12
birthday.
p.m. Well, she's no longer with us, but we celebrate her birthday every year anyway. Uh,
Mhm.
we we can't wait to see you again on Sunday, June 30th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'll be interviewing Messi Obuela. Her name is so difficult, but she's a norm therapist, as a matter of fact, a truly amazing woman. And I look forward to having her on our show. Gauri, I really enjoyed you. Thank you very much. I wish you and your husband and your family great success. I'm looking forward to having you on some of our panels in the future. I love your perspective, and I think this was an excellent interview. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me. You have a great day ahead.
You too now. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. That was good.